Well, last year may have proved tougher than usual to be in school, especially for those in their final year. But 5 matriculants were given the chance to go on a trip of a lifetime to the coldest, driest, barest continent. They were chosen from across the country to go to Antarctica with explorer Riaan Manser. They have now returned, and we're delighted to be joined by Riaan Manser and one of the matriculants, Boiketlo Lamula. Boiketlo, let me start with you. Thank you both for being with us tonight. Was this trip all it was cracked up to be?
Yes, it definitely was, and it was even much more than I expected. This trip really changed me on the inside than the outside, and it's just really difficult for me to explain my whole experience.
So most people won't ever get to see Antarctica. I would love to see it. I'm interested, what were your expectations going to Antarctica, and how did that compare with what you actually saw, the reality?
One of my expectations was seeing a lot of ice. It was just seeing ice all over. But when I got there, I was so shocked to find a lot of rocks and exposed mountains. And then I obviously expected to see some animals, some penguins, but unfortunately we didn't see those. The side where we were, there were actually no animals at all. It was just rocks, ice, and lakes. That's all there was.
Okay, so very desolate. You have to find the beauty in that. Riaan, this was a 5-day scientific adventure in Antarctica. Just tell us what that involves. What do you get up to on a scientific adventure?
Well, Francis, listen, I think the idea of science is just for most people not the most exciting adventure, but I think if you just couple it with travel and you bring in some young, bright minds like Boiketlo and the other students, there was that, we like the conversation. In my career, the conversation about the environment has always been one of a lot of hot air. And I've heard people speak about it, but actually deliver nothing. And I've sat in enough committees to just see people achieve nothing. So the idea behind this wasn't that we were just going to take the students on a fun joyride to Antarctica. We're actually going to have them see the environment that we speak about, this Antarctica that everybody talks about, firsthand. So that adventure aspect related to science, to see the quality of water, to physically see the temperatures that we had over there and the melting of water at the same time, that was the scientific adventure.
All right, and the melting due to climate change. I mean, when you go, can you say this is an example of the ravages of man, what it's doing here? Can you see that?
Yeah, I think physically, Boiketlo would probably tell you, if you said to her what was one of the things that shocked you, it possibly would also be just that melting of the ice. I'd been to Antarctica a few times, and the one journey was exactly a year before the one I went with Boiketlo and them. And Francis, just the difference that I saw in 1 year. Imagine, 1 year is nothing in history, and that difference was huge already. I'm thinking Boiketlo probably could even answer that better.
Well, Boiketlo, the question you had to answer to get on this trip was, what will be the exploration of the Antarctica continent? How can that help us preserve a greener, more sustainable existence? I'm interested in how you answered that, and if you could see any signs or anything visible to you about climate change, things like that.
Okay, so I answered the question concerning food. That is because I'm really passionate about agriculture. I've actually never done it or really been exposed to it, but I'm just really interested in it. I'm really interested in food and health, and I'd love to study plant sciences. So that is how I answered the question. I suggested a plant-based diet, which is one of the things that I would love to promote. So going to Antarctica helped me see how the climate really impacts the environment. One of the other things that really shocked me was the weather. I've never been to Antarctica before, but it really shocked me how hot it is, because I even came to a point where I was taking off my jacket, and I was shocked, why am I taking off my jacket in Antarctica? It's supposed to be freezing cold, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I'm shocked right now. Riaan, were you pleasantly surprised by the curiosity of the matriculants?
Very much so. Francis, we've got incredible students. I think there is always just this gap between bright minds and the right people to lead them. There definitely is something in that statement, because you sit with those 5 students that we had in Antarctica with us. I mean, the night that Boiketlo pulled out of her violin and had this concerto in front of this huge ice wall, we weren't sitting there saying, listen, let's do this equation, work out this problem. We were busy sitting there absolutely taking in nature with her giving us the background music. So I was blown away. I mean, Boiketlo would also tell you, you get a guy like Cobus who comes from Northern Cape. He'd been living the drought with his dad for the last 14 years. For him to go sit there and just to reflect in a very, very different space was also a growth. But I think we couldn't have chosen better. There's the thousands of entries just yielded so many clever responses. But one thing that you probably saw from Boiketlo's answer to our question, Francis, was that she decided what was personally and real to her when it came to this environmental conversation. We had more students looking at that and not trying to be the next Greta Thunberg or trying to be the next activist that can be shown on their national news channel. But somebody that's actually making a difference. We're going to see a real environmental change. Those 5 students that we took with couldn't have been better.
Yeah. And is it a worthy thing to do every year? This is a project, Matrics in Antarctica. The patron is Professor Jonathan Johnson. Do you see longevity and real benefits from doing this every year, perhaps?
Definitely, Francis. So we've got a 5-year plan. The 5-year plan is obviously, if people who know me would tell you that's me being unambitious. We definitely have a 5-year plan. We've got commitment from Stellenbosch University again, from Department Environmental Affairs, and then also the Education Department. So that bodes well for the years going forward. But all the PPS who people know, business is also so fully behind the project and in its long-term plan. But if you asked me where I was seeing hope, was this last week. We're doing a roadshow where we're taking these 5 winning students across the country, especially to their provinces, their schools, their communities, and just letting them give feedback. And this last week we were in Northern Cape with Cobus, and the excitement and the enthusiasm and then that change of conversation where we took the weight off these 18-year-old shoulders and we said, listen, we don't want you to solve the big global problem. We want you to solve the problem locally first. They all bought into that. And I think it's a guy like me can stand in front of them and tell them some adventure stories about my career, but that still doesn't make that impact. A person like Boiketlo is going to stand up in front of her school, stand up in front of schools that she knows, and the people are going to see themselves in her. So the 5-year plan, I'm holding thumbs, it's going to be a 20-year, 50-year plan.
Yeah, well, this sounds wonderful. Thank you both for being with us tonight. Explorer Riaan Manser and Boiketlo Lamula, one of the 5 matriculants who accompanied him and others to Antarctica.